Today we're going to be looking at a bootleg Angry Birds plush set that's pretty obscure. And while not only is this bootleg plush set obscure, it's also pretty strange looking, as well most of the plushes in the set look really weird. So yeah, with that said, welcome to a look at the Xinbao Toys Angry Birds Space plush set. Starting off with the first plush, we have the Space Red. Now, the most noticeable detail in this plush that looks weird are definitely the eyes, as well all the eyes in this plush are made out of a plastic material, so they look really weird. As well, it makes it look like that the eyes are popping out of the plush's head, and it just makes it look really strange compared to any other Angry Birds plush. And while the black around the eyes is also made out of a felt material, which means that it could get bent and damaged, as well, but it is coming off of the plush. And while the beak on this plush actually looks pretty good, there is some stitching on it just to give it a bit more detail and make it look a bit more accurate. And while since it's really nicely stuffed and also has some stitching on it, it ends up being the most accurate detail on the whole plush. And for the feathers on the head, they're just way too big, and they're also really well stuffed, so they just stick straight up, and it ends up just making them look really weird. So yeah, the feathers also just look sort of weird, just like the eyes, and they don't really seem to be that well made. So yeah, the majority of the details on this plush just look really strange, and the few details that do look good don't really make up for it. And well, if you want any of the plushes within this set, they're all really hard to find, as well these are really old bootlegs that haven't been seen in a really long time. So you could look for them on websites like eBay, but you have a very low chance of finding them, as well they're just really old and really obscure. Next we have the Lightning Blue. Now, just like the red plush, the eyes on this plush just look really weird, as well they just look like they're coming out of the head, as well since they're made out of a plastic material, it just ends up making them look really weird. And while the beak on this plush looks pretty good, as well it seems to be basically the exact same beak used on the red plush, so it makes it look pretty good, as well it uses the same stitching and is also really nicely stuffed, so it seems to be probably the best detail on the plush in terms of accuracy. And while the lightning part of the plush coming out of the side of the head could be good, but it seems that it could get really easily understuffed the way that they're made. As you can see in one of these photos, on the right one, you could kind of see that it's getting understuffed, so it ends up just looking quite weird. So yeah, if they stay really well stuffed, they will actually look pretty good, but if they don't, they'll end up just looking pretty weird over time. And well, that's basically all there is to say about this plush. Once again, it just looks really strange, as well most of the details on this plush don't really look that accurate. And well, I think this plush set just would have looked a lot better if they didn't use the plastic eyes, as though the plastic eyes on this plush kind of ruin most of the plushes in the set, as though it just makes them look a lot weirder than they would without them. Next we have Space Bomb. And well, just like the other plushes in this set, the eyes on this plush just look really weird, but they don't look as bad, as well they added some felt material on the outside of the eyes, which is great, just to give it a bit more detail. Which does actually make the eyes on this plush look a bit better than the others in the set, as well it just gives it a slight bit more detail. And while the beak on this plush is once again the exact same as the other plushes in the set, so it uses the exact same stitching and everything, so it ends up looking pretty good. And while the eyebrows on this plush could get damaged because they're only made out of a felt material and they're most likely only glued on. The feather on this plush could also get damaged, as well once again it's made out of a felt material, meaning that it could get bent and damaged. And while his cloak on this plush seems to also be made out of a felt material, but it does end up looking pretty good, as well they also got the yellow detail correct on it, so it looks pretty nice. So overall, this is definitely one of the better looking plushes in the set, but it's also missing a few details, most importantly the fuse. As well, on the top of Bomb's feather, there's supposed to be a fuse on it, which is actually missing on this plush, and there's also a few other small details that's also missing on it. But even though it's missing a few details, it still overall looks pretty good, especially compared to the other plushes in the set. Next we have Laser Chuck. Now this is the only plush in the entire set to not actually have plastic eyes, so that already makes it look a lot better than the others. But that does also make sense why it doesn't have plastic eyes, as well there's not even really supposed to be eyes on this plush, so it would actually be really strange if they did actually add plastic eyes onto this plush, as well it would literally make no sense. And while overall this plush actually looks pretty good compared to the others, as well some of the details on it just look really nice, as well there's some nice stitching on the eye area of this plush, as well it just makes it look a bit better, but there also is some felt material, meaning that it could get damaged. The eyebrows and feathers are also made out of a felt material on this plush, so especially with the feathers it could get bent and damaged. I'm also assuming that the eyebrows are most likely glued on, as well that's what most bootleg companies do, so they could most likely fall off over time. And while the beak on this plush is the exact same one used on the other plushes, so it once again looks pretty good. The cloak on this plush also looks pretty good, and it looks very similar to Bond's, which makes sense as well. That's just kind of how it looks overall. And well, once again, it could most likely get bent and damaged, because it once again seems to be made out of a felt material. But yeah, overall, this is definitely one of the best plushes, if not the best in the entire set, as all the details on it actually look pretty good. And well, especially compared to the others in the set, this one actually looks pretty good and is honestly not that bad for a bootleg. So yeah, out of any of the plushes in the set, I would definitely want to get this one the most, as it just looks the best overall, and it looks pretty nice. Next we have Space Terance. Now the eyes on this plush are the exact same eyes used on the red plush, and well, they overall don't really look that good. As once again, it looks like the eyes are popping out of the head, and it just doesn't really look that good, and honestly, there's really not a lot of details on this plush. As though the eyebrows look pretty bare, and they don't really have much detail to them, and they're also just made out of a felt material, meaning that they could get damaged. The beak on this plush is probably the best looking part, as once again, it looks pretty accurate, and the feathers on the head also do look pretty good. As though they're not too stuffed, and they're also not too big like the red plush, so it ends up looking pretty good compared to the other plushes in the set. And well, there actually seems to be two variants of this plush as well, but it seems that there's this plush that has these green dots on it, and there's also another variant that doesn't have them. As you can see on this picture, there's some dark green dots on Terance, but on most of the photos of this plush, they're actually missing them, so it seems that there's actually two different variants of this Terance plush. And well, the variant with the dark green spots actually looks a lot better, as well, but just gives it a bit more detail, and well, this variant without them just makes the plush just look really bare. As though there's really not that much detail, but adding these green dots actually just gives it a bit more detail, so this variant is just a lot better. But yeah, either way, both variants sort of look strange as well, especially with the eyes and everything, it just gives it a weird look. Moving on to the next plush in the set, we have the Ice Bird. Now once again, the eyes on this plush overall look pretty strange, and though the eyebrows are basically the exact same as other plushes in the set, and once again, they seem to be glued on. The beak is the exact same as the other plushes in the set, so it looks pretty good, and the feathers actually look really accurate on this plush. As though they just seem to be really nicely stuffed, and they overall look pretty good, especially compared to some other plushes in the set where the feathers just don't really look that accurate. And well, the shape of the plush also seems to be pretty good, as well, it's really nicely shaped, and it seems that they put a good amount of stuffing into it to give it that shape. So overall, even though it's a really simplistic plush, it actually looks pretty good, especially compared to the others, but the only really bad detail about it is that the eyes just look really strange. And I think that goes for basically every single plush in the entire set, and I think if they made the eyes out of a different material that wasn't plastic, they would have just looked a lot better overall. As well, the only thing that the plastic eyes do is just make the plushes stand out a bit more and make them look a bit weirder, so you definitely know when this company made a plush, as well, there's basically no other Angry Birds plushes that actually have plastic eyes on them. And the ones that do have plastic eyes on them actually look really good, unlike these plushes, so yeah, these ones definitely do look unique in their own way, I guess. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please like and subscribe and comment down below which plush is your favorite, and yeah, have a great day.